a lot of hyperbole that's going on right now. And the biggest thing we can possibly do as an industry is not react and stay calm and manage through these waters. So let's get some reality of what's being said versus what's actually happening. We are actually hitting the perfect storm. And the perfect storm is a combination of different things. There is a period because of technology, there's no more gatekeeping of information. And that is actually creating a problem already on the school level because now you have students coming in that are kind of pre-trained, whether they did it themselves, but they have access to information and they have access to interest going on. That has changed the culture inside of schools along the way. Now, that is also partnered with the fact that we have lots of laws changing as far as schooling and hours and so on and so forth. And where this is coming from is the federal government has realized that there is a lot of people that are getting into the industry that are also jumping out of the industry. So the big aha here and how we landed on the federal government's radar is 40% of the defaulted student loans overall, 40%. So we're talking colleges, dental hygienists, all of it. 40% of the defaulted loans are our industry. We're the problem. So when you take a look at the top 20 schools from the Department of Education, there are 9 of those schools, 11 of those schools that are cosmetology or barbering schools that have the highest default rate. So we got, and this isn't new news. This is actually 10-year-old news from the Obama administration. So this is not connected to politics whatsoever. This is not new news. And so that started the gainful employment movement that started in the Obama administration that put us square on that said that there had to be some reforms here. And there was some statutes put into and laws put into place in regards to tracking and how that student had to be tracked after school and they have to be gainfully employed. They have to be making more money than a high school graduate, et cetera, et cetera. And through that, legislators figured out that we weren't able to make the same money. So they have now come back to the laws and said, why are we going through so many damn hours in school to get to a career that people are dropping out of? This make it make sense. So that's where a lot of this 1,000 hours is coming from. And we're not seeing it's in somebody else asked me this, they're like, oh, what states have deregulated? Nobody's deregulated. This story has to stop. We haven't deregulated. What they have done is pulled out these micro pieces, such as braiding has been moved off of, okay, now it isn't regulated, or we've had blow drying, or we've had hair extensions, or we've had lash extensions. So it feels on the surface like our licenses are being peeled away from, but at the end of the day, the actual license is still intact and still in place and hasn't been removed where the hours are at. So I can understand the perception, but the reality does not equate what's there. Now, what's happened is this gainful employment was put off and put off and appealed and appealed and appealed and appealed by large school groups. I'll be the one to say it. ACES was probably the biggest school group that's out there that appealed this and kicked the can down the street, kicked the can down the street. And we've been in constant conversation, or they have, with legislators to say, hey, this tracking method that you want is not feasible. We can't do this. This isn't real. And then, there was some fight over how Department of Labor is reporting the wages, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a long conversation. This has been going on for quite a while. Well, what happened with the current administration is that gainful employment got wrapped into big, beautiful bill, and other professions were attached to it, such as nurses, such as dental hygienists, so on and so forth. All these what they call, and I hate using the word because it doesn't really apply, these low-level certification programs that are quick and fast and easy. So they got lumped into that with us as well. But now that means we're in a bigger bubble. We're now really being watched. We're not just on our own. Sorry, my computer likes to freeze occasionally. So that put us on the radar even a little bit more. And now there's a time clock that's attached to that. And we've appealed ourselves to death, and now we can't. So that's where all of this is coming into play, July 1st. And you hear a lot of attached to that is one of the largest school associations has come out and said that 92% of cosmetology schools will close. Again, this is a little hyperbolic, so we all need to bring it down a notch. What that means is 92% of the schools will be out of compliance. So this goes into place July 1st, but they have time to get into compliance. It's 2 years that they have to get into compliance. So we probably won't begin to see any form of failure on a big, massive way until about July 2027. Okay.
What
So
does that
once
look like? What do they need to do to comply? Like, what is that?
Great question. They're going to have to comply. So in the compliance, they're going to have to prove that the person that's graduating got their license, number one, and they have to follow them throughout their career. What are they working? How are they, what kind of money are they making, et cetera, et cetera. And they have to be able to prove that this person, and they have to be able to make more money than a high school graduate. So there's a benchmark, and I want to say it's $27,000. Last I took a look on the federal level. So, and there's methods of review, there's methods of audit that have to be followed, et cetera, et cetera, and that's part of the accreditation process that have to be followed. Now, here's where the story gets a little bit weirder. So, yes, 92% of schools will be out of compliance. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll close. That just means they have to get into compliance. So they have time to be able to get into compliance. So there's even a little bit more time. Now, some schools aren't going to make it. That is true. They're going to, the smaller schools that just cannot, I mean, that's a lot of administrative burden for a school. That's a position, that's a lot to ask for a financial aid officer when we're already talking about budgets. But here's what people don't understand. 86% of the cosmetology schools in the United States are not accredited. They are not having to go through this title funding. So again, 92% of accredited schools will have an issue. But if you're not dealing with accreditation to get the federal funding and you're a private pay, you're not in on that radar. So again, I think the narrative, and I'm throwing myself on the radar here when I say I think the narrative was used to create a lot of excitement and a lot of panic that isn't actually necessarily true. So there's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And
We're gonna get some comments. I know that.
yeah, I'm sure I'm going to get lamb blasted because that's the reality. And a lot of this, just so it's fun, I'm not making this stuff up. Obviously, some of this comes from Institute of Justice. They're kind of leading the way on a lot of this. America First Foundation, Illinois Policy has been a group. These are all third-party groups that do research and pull these numbers. So this isn't stuff that we're just pulling out of the middle of nowhere. We're pulling from multiple sources outside of our industry that are having this conversation.
Fabulous. All right, so I might get some hate stuff on this too.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not sure.
I'm clutching my pearls already, going, oh boy.
Yes. So quite a few of us have been talking and stuff about this, and it goes both ways. We have some people that are like, gosh, we really got to make sure that the schools, and why are they only making 27,000? And the blame game starts. They're only making 27,000 because the schools are terrible and they don't do what they're supposed to do and blah, 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 blah. I disagree. I know some salon owners that do a fabulous, or school owners, I'm sorry, that do a fabulous job. And I also know some schools that are very lacking. And let's be real, it hasn't changed in many years. So sorry if you're a school owner. I do love you, and I do think you do really great work. I know many of you that do amazing. But I agree with some people saying what we see. I own a salon, and